start with your calf, you get that halter onto them as young as possible. You get them used to that, you get them used to of walking, get used to noises, and the grooming side of it and clipping. Then, look, a lot of it is trial and error if you want to get into the clipping, into the grooming, and you're starting out. We all have animals around the yard that are nice and quiet that might never go to a show, but they're all very useful in practicing on and getting used of the clippers and getting used of your different products and what works and what doesn't work. So it's practice, ask questions, like anything you'll learn from other people who have gone there, and it's all trial and error. But look, there's plenty of other animals in the yard who, if they have a ball stripe down their back, it won't make any difference to them.
Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by Cork beef farmer Noel McSweeney and his Teagasc advisor David Hallissey as they prepare for this year's Tullamore Show. Noel runs a progressive beef enterprise where he combines commercial cattle production with an embryo transfer breeding programme to produce top quality show and fatstock cattle. With Tullamore Show just days away, Noel takes us behind the scenes to explain the planning, preparation and attention to detail that goes into getting cattle ready for one of Ireland's premier events. Noel, before we begin, can you give an insight into your farm system?
So I suppose we're farming here in West Cork, just outside of Macroom. We're farming just slightly over 100 acres. Predominantly have always been a beef farming system. Historically, it would have been suckler to weanling. And now, over the last few years, we've changed that. We've gone down more specialised route, I suppose. We keep about 20 to 25 suckler cows. That's a mixture between pedigree Charlie, pedigree Limousine and commercial cows. We're also finishing a number of cattle as well. We do a store to finish system, and we're also do a small number of heifers for breeding, specialist breeding heifer sales as well.
As a young beef farmer, Noel, can you talk through your experience of getting into farming?
Yeah, so I suppose, as I said, Dad here and Mum have been farming. Dad bought the farm in the late 70s. They've always been farming themselves. So it's something we've grown up with. There's always been cattle and livestock around. Got into the showing side of things, I suppose. It was in the early 2000s. It was a relation who was running an agricultural show and said, geez, surely you'll bring on some few animals to it. So I suppose that's kind of where it started from, was just a small local show. And once we got a taste of it, it just kind of snowballed from there, and it's progressed on to where we are.
Some listeners might consider some of the embryo work, it's a huge expense and very high risk. What has your experience been?
Every farm is different, and I suppose how a person quantifies the risk and quantifies the cost is very independent to themselves. I suppose what we have found with it is it gives you a great opportunity for genetic advantage, and I suppose you're utilising those cows that have proven bloodlines and have proven themselves as breeders. We're using target genetics now, who are specialising in IVP. I suppose one of the beauties of this is that you're able to do your donor cow a lot younger. You're able to do them even if they're in calf. You can do it non-stim if you want to as well. So what that means is that you don't actually have to use any drugs. And I suppose another thing of it is now with this new technology is that previously, before, with flushing and with embryos, you would have to use a multiple number of straws to get embryos. Whereas now with the IVF, they're removing the oocytes from the cow and they're being fertilized in a lab, and you can use half a straw of one bull now in it, and it has really opened up the game to using that more expensive, that more elusive straw that you might be saving, and you can use it across a number of donors on the one day, and therefore improving the genetic merit of your herd. So I suppose, look, it's a thing that we have found that has worked for us, and it's working with this new technologies that Target Genetics have got on board, and they've linked up with Transova in the US, who are one of the leading specialists in it. It has opened a lot of opportunities, we found.
Really, the process starts from once the cow or heifer actually goes in calf?
It is. It's probably even starting before that, to be honest with you. Look, you'd be monitoring what's happening in other shows in Ireland and England and across Europe, and you're looking at the genetics that are starting to move forward. And look, I suppose every farmer is different, and every fella that's breeding cattle, everybody has different things that they look for. Um, and I suppose you'd identify your cow, your donor cow, who you would like to have proven already that she has the ability to breed something special and something that is worthwhile. I suppose it's a big thing is if you're going flushing a cow or doing embryos, you want to be sure of your genetics and you want to be sure of that the cow is worth doing basically. So we'd be looking at bulls. You could be talking 12 months, a year and a half before you'd even contemplate using them, see how they're producing, see what your cow is doing, and you're linking up the bull to try and match them as well. So I suppose it even starts before even the whole process of IVF or embryos.
This week you're gearing up for Tullamore Show, preparing, organising and planning. Can you talk through when do you start and what's your process?
Just like the breeding side of things, it starts months and months in advance. You've got to get the calves on the ground first and keep them going and keep them thriving. Look, we like to do a few local shows first to get your calf out, get them used to the showing scene, get used to the noises, people, the different distractions that'll be happening on the day. Look, I suppose in the last few weeks, then you're getting your feeding correct. Tullamore for the commercial side of things, it's weight classes. So you have under certain weights. So you're monitoring your calf's daily live weight gain to see are they on track to hit the class and to be under the weights that you need to be in the classes. So I suppose look, last week and this week is look, you have your feeding done, you have your dosing, your vaccinating, all the your normal farming practices that need to be done. And this week now is I suppose, look, you're washing your animal. The clipping will begin now this week, so you want to get the hair as good as possible. For making sure that you have all your products that you need. Because when you arrive into Tullamore Show early on Sunday morning, it's all go go go. So you need to be prepared, and I suppose it's weeks and months in advance. And look, it's Tullamore is the ultimate show for the showing circles. It's where everybody wants to be competing, and you want to be competing at the higher end if possible. So there is a lot of work goes into it, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But look, it's nice to be able to compete there anyway.
You mentioned clipping show cattle, and showing cattle is an art in itself. What are the key tips to your success?
I don't know, is there any one specific thing or success, even if you call it? But I suppose what I've learned down through the years is there's many good people who've gone before me and who've gone before all of us who are showing. And look, as a young person, I suppose it always have been looking at what other people are doing and asking questions. And I suppose look, if people are at home and they want to get into it, I suppose you start with your calf, you get that halter onto them as young as possible. You get them used to the halter, you get them used to of walking, get used to noises, and the grooming side of it and clipping. Then, look, a lot of it is trial and error. If you want to get into the clipping, into the grooming, and you're starting out, we all have animals around the yard that are nice and quiet that might never go to a show, but they're all very useful in practicing on and getting used of the clippers and getting used of your different products and what works and what doesn't work. So kind of what I'd say to young people is, or to anyone is is practice, ask questions, look, you know, like anything you'll learn from other people who have gone there, and it's all trial and error. But look, if you have animals at home, I wouldn't say if you have a real good show animal and you've never clipped an animal, I wouldn't say that's the one to be starting on. I think you might be better off to get someone who maybe might be more experienced. But there's plenty of other animals in the yard who, if they have a ball stripe down their back, it won't make any difference to them.
From all your experience showing cattle, what's the key memory that stands out for you?
Look, there's been a number of them down through the years. I suppose. Look, last year, the end of last year really was as a highlight for us. We were quite lucky. We had a number of good calves who did quite well. We had a Charlie Heifer who she won her class in Tullamore. She won her class at the National Calf Show, and she was intermediate calf champion. She went on to sell for 15,000 for export, and we went on into Carrick a few months later, and we had a real special young calf. She was only June born. She was 280 kilos. She was third in her class, and she made 15,000 also, and she was sold to a farmer in Northern Ireland, Trevor Shields, Marshall Limousines. And that heifer actually went on and she won Balmoral in May just gone by. She was the overall commercial champion there, and she was reserve junior interbreed there. So, look, I suppose seeing the likes of that and seeing your breeding performing for other people is really where I get to kick out of it. Look, we all like to breed and we all like to win, but you like to see them go on as well. And I suppose last year as well, we had the champion, overall champion, our local fatstock Skibbereen, which was first time we had ever achieved it. So was that was a nice touch. But the likes of those things, there's enough hard days and tough days in farming and in showing. So look, it's good to get those turns, and it keeps the appetite there for you.
That's a fantastic achievement, and I suppose fatstock sales, they really are the main aim for you this autumn, and they've become very popular. From now on, how will cattle be managed and prepared for the likes of Carrick that you mentioned?
Yeah, so look, I suppose this summer, look with the weather and the drought down here, like we're very tight on grass. It's a difficult year to manage cattle. Again, it goes back. It starts months and months in advance. We'll have our calves out. Look, we'll probably be housing cattle early enough down here to get them used of being inside. We'll be ensuring that all our dosing is up. To date, we like to make sure there's no worm burden or there's no lice. Like, if you're feeding an animal, you want them to do the live weight gain. You want them to perform as best as they can. So you don't want to be feeding parasites is one of the biggest things that we see. And that if you can get that in control and have your testing done and know what status of your herd is a big thing. So we'll house them in the next 6 weeks or so. We'll get them in. All the weanlings, young cattle, they'll all be vaccinated for your RSV and IVR. We've found that has been a huge help down the last number of years, whereas before we mightn't have been as on top of it, but the last number of years it has saved. So look, they'll be in, they'll still be sucking the cows, and then they'll be weaned. They won't be weaned straight away when they go in. They'll be weaned after a couple of weeks, and look, they'll be getting a good concentrate of a nice protein, 16% and silage, and look, they'll be managed, and look, you'll be monitoring them for everything. Look, these cattle, these pedigree cattle or show cattle or whatever you want to call them, that look, they're very highly bred. They're very different to your run of the mill suckler. Like, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen to them. So there is a lot of monitoring them, but it is very rewarding, and it is a great interest to have as well.
Behind the scenes, it's very busy for you because you also work off farm. How do you balance it?
Yeah, so I'm working full time off farm as well. So look, it's very simple. I'm very lucky to have working alongside my father and my mother as well, who are here with me. So it's very much a family farm. Like, they're able to do a lot of the herding from day to day and keeping an eye on things and making things sure things are working. So look, I suppose it goes back kind of there maybe to the embryo work and stuff that we do. It's you can decide when you're implanting your embryos. We do a lot of elective cesareans on those embryo calves, so you can plan that with your local vet. So look, it's taking a lot of those stressful times of calving season. You can plan them a little bit better. You can't plan anything that involves nature fully, but you can plan it a little bit better. And look, I suppose just working with David and different things, I'm going to probably move back to putting a few more cows calving in the autumn time. I might increase the cow number slightly, and just to spread that workload and have, say, some normal commercial cows calving in the autumn time, and the pedigrees and the commercial calves in the springtime. But look, it's coming up to sale time there. The back end of the year, you'll have 2 weekends on the trot that you'll be above in Carrick, and you'll have the fatstock the week after. So there's 3 weekends there that you have. Last year we had 12 or 15 cattle that you were getting prepared for sales. It's very much a family event, and friends and anyone who can help. And in fairness, it's not just one person; it's everyone who digs in and gets it done. And that's basically how we seem to get around it.
Finally, Noel, for any listener that might be starting showing cattle, what advice would you have for them?
One of the biggest things, I suppose, with a person starting out, if they intend to go showing cattle, is I suppose decide what suits your farm. Not every breed or not every farmer wants the same thing. Not every breed suits the same farmer. And there's room there for every breed, but I suppose it's really do your research, decide what do you want to achieve, where do you want to go, and then the breed that you settle on. I suppose your genetics, follow your genetics, do your research, look at the lines that are performing around. Look, with social media now and internet and everything, there's more information available than was ever available, and to do your research and decide what you want. And I suppose one thing that I would say, I suppose, is like when you pick a cow, if you make a decision and you're happy with it, stick by it. Like sometimes the decisions will work, sometimes they won't, but keep going. Like where is livestock, there is going to be hard days and things aren't going to work out, but the tide is always turning. And I suppose is just work hard and do what you want to do and what suits your system.
That's great. Thanks very much, Noel. David, Noel is just one of many farmers around the country operating this kind of unique intensive system. Is this an area that you're seeing growing?
Yeah, catching is definitely something we're seeing in the area in growing, maybe not to the same extent as Noel, but even just going around to the local shows and sales, and I suppose the amount of people that have cattle halter train now and trying to get into that whole showing side of things, the numbers have definitely grown, particularly amongst younger farmers, and even outside of people that might be breeding the stock. You'd have a number of people buying maybe whalings from shows and sales in our part of the world, and they'd be the ones bringing them on into the likes of your local shows and bringing them on into different classes and stuff like that. So it's definitely an area we're seeing more interest in. It mightn't be a whole farm system, but it's definitely part of the piece on a lot more suckler farms in particular in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Some might say balancing the calving difficulty and muscle, that can be a concern on a typical farm. As an advisor, what's your advice?
Yeah, so look, like myostatin is a tool to be used, I suppose, similar to any other trait in animals. Like I suppose the first thing, if you are going down that route, is to have all your cows or your breeding animals genotyped, so you know, I suppose, if there's a myostatin in the background of those animals, and that will really influence your breeding decisions. And I suppose depending on the myostatin you're going for, depending on your breed, that will have an effect as well. Like your F94L won't have as much issues with breed as calving as maybe some of your other myostatin genes. So there is ways around it. Just because you're going for the myostatin gene does not mean you're always going to end up with hard calvings. It's about each individual cow, and matching a bull to suit her is key. And having your herd genotyped is really, really important if you're going down this route, particularly if you want to reduce those harder calvings that I suppose won't suit many farmers, given the part-time nature of many of these farming systems.
It's great to see the success that Noel is having on his farm. From your experience, David, working with Noel, where are the areas that you think will be focused on in the coming years?
Yeah, so in fairness to Noel, like the breeding side of the house by him is excellent. So I suppose like the things we've been looking at and talking about, I suppose, is reseeding, and maybe introducing some clover onto the farm just to reduce maybe the fertilizer usage on the farm in terms of nitrogen. And I suppose the big part of the puzzle probably over the next couple of years is probably to increase infrastructure on the farm in terms of slurry storage is probably the next big investment for Noel on the farm. So in the short term, reseeding and getting some clover in on the farm, and then I suppose more long term would be increasing the housing facilities in terms of slurry storage.
Thanks, David, and the very best of luck, Noel, in the upcoming Tullamore Show and the fatstock sales this autumn.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Katrin.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Noel and David for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Katrin, and thanks for listening.